evening. Welcome to the 24th episode of Rachel Pilcher Writing Workshops Facebook Live. I am Rachel Pilcher. I am so grateful to have you here tonight. I hope you are enjoying your Sunday. I am on my second day of spring break. I'm so excited. I basically have another week. This time next week I'm going to be probably running around my house trying to figure out why I'm going back. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to figure out why I'm going back, but it's always nice to have the time off, and it seemed like this year it took an extra time to get to spring break this year. So I'm very excited to have a week of work and writing ahead of me. On that note, I just want to remind you that every Wednesday I do host a virtual writing hour at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's on Zoom, so if you're interested in it, please go to rachelpilcherwritingworkshops.com and you can get more information there. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me right here on this page, or to email me at email me at my email, rachel@rachelpilcher.com. There were too many ats there. It was kind of bothering my brain for a minute. Also, coming up this Saturday on March 16th at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, I have an online workshop that is called Writing Your Artist Biography. And just kind of a brief idea of what an artist biography is. It is the biography that goes along with your writing. So if you're submitting to literary journals, or if you are creating a web page or a blog or a Facebook page for your business or Instagram, it's getting an idea of what you need to put and what you shouldn't put in your artist biography to make it so that it is viable for being online or being a good presentation of who you are to publishers. So that is this Saturday, March 16th, starting at 10 a.m. You can get more information and to register via rachelpilcherwritingworkshops.com, so on my website. Finally, Panther City Review, Issue 4. Very excited about it this year. It's open for submissions right now through Monday, April 29th. So the theme for this year is actually my word for the year. It is focus. I usually make theme fairly vague, so it makes it easy to be able to fit into that theme. You probably already have something that works for that, so look through your work or create something new. And if you're interested, please submit to panthercityreview.com. You go there, there's information on registration, submission, and it'll be able to get you and your work into Panther City Review, hopefully. So go ahead, do that, check it out. I look forward to seeing some of your work. So, for tonight's topic, the topic is what serious writers do daily. And a lot of this is just, it's things that I do daily, and from what I have read of other writers, they also do very similar things. And I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it was the top 5 things that serious writers do every day. And I was really kind of surprised that they match up to everything that I pretty much do. And hi, Mom. My mom says hi. So, serious writers. The number one thing that a serious writer does, this is not going to be any surprise to any of you, is that they write every day. They get words down on paper. They get it done. They have a specific word count, and they expect to get that word count done. I have a specific word count that I have every day, whether it is for creative writing or if it's for an article that I'm writing or a blog post, and I count all of that as getting my writing done. So if I write 900 words on a blog post, then I have an extra amount of words that I can use on creative writing or on an article. But I generally do 2,500 words, especially during the school year. 2,500 words is a lot of words if you are working a full-time job. So if you're working a full-time job, that is the ideal thing. A lot of times, like this week, I'll probably bump it up to 3,500 words because I have time off. I am able to sit and write for a couple of hours every day without having to worry about all kinds of things getting in my way, like work. So, you know, have a specific word count and get it done. Don't go a day without writing. And I don't count my journal writing as part of this word count. That is something that I do to help work my way through things that have nothing to do with my writing. So that is the number one thing. Second, you get started no matter how you feel or what mood you're in. You show up to the page. And that can be difficult. I know that there are times where, you know, I have a headache or I just don't feel like writing, or I'm cold, or I'd much rather, you know, go off and go see a movie, or go shopping, or go out to eat, or read a book, which we're going to talk about later. But I make sure that every single day I show up. If I haven't done it by a certain time during the day, I do make sure that during my lunch, during any kind of break that I have, any kind of free time that I have, I get my writing done. That's the number one thing you have to do. So, write every day and show up. They kind of go hand in hand. The third thing is that serious writers think on paper. So, for me, I always kind of get a little distracted by the terms, you're a plotter, you're a pantser, because I really think that pantsers are plotters. They just plot differently than other people do. So generally you may start a story out, but you're like, oh, it would be great if this would happen, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Well, that's plotting. So you're thinking, whether you're going by an outline, which many times pantsers end up turning around and writing an outline because they have to have at least some kind of an end in mind, or where they want to fit things, and then they continue to think as they write. So even if you are a plotter, you continue to think and you continue to add to your work as you write. So your first draft is always when you have that comparison of, okay, this is a test of how my outline actually worked out. And some people write the outline and they never go back and look at it. Some people write the outline, they look at it as they go, and they try to stay within those parameters. And a lot of times with me, I mean, I'll map out a story and have an idea of where I want it to end, and I have an idea of the things that I want to be included in it. But sometimes I end up saying, well, you know, this would be better over here instead of where it is. So, but that is thinking on paper. So, you have to let it not derail you whenever that happens. Don't get freaked out. That's part of the writing process. And serious writers know that if their thoughts start changing as they're writing, that's just part of the creative process. So serious writers don't get freaked out when they start deviating slightly from their outline. And some of them might, but they know that it's not the end of the world and they can get back to it. So that's number 3. Number 4, you have to allow yourself to get bored and know that getting bored is part of the process of being a creative. So boredom is usually that time that many people spend getting onto Facebook or getting onto Instagram or surfing the internet or playing video games or doing other things. So if you find that you are losing track of your time and you're getting on all of the social media, checking your email, and you're doing all that, and it's not contributing to your writing, then you need to stop. And you need to allow yourself to clear your mind so that you can be able to open up that part of your brain that thinks creatively. Because you can get completely overwhelmed by everything that you read online, by the games that you're playing. You can get completely sucked into them, and before you know it, 4 hours later, you've lost all this time. And usually if you stop and you allow yourself to get bored, to just cleanse your mind, to meditate, to think on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, that is better for you as a creative. And serious writers allow themselves that time to get bored. So the other thing, this is going on to number 5, the other thing that serious writers do is that they read every day. even if it's just an article in a magazine or a newspaper, or maybe even, you know, information online about writing. But they read for pleasure every day. I usually try to read at least a chapter of a book for pleasure every day, because that also helps clear your mind. So I kind of think that the getting bored, number 4, and number 5, read every day, they work well hand in hand. I find whenever I stop and try to read a newspaper article, if I'm reading something from, you know, that's posted online from the Washington Post or the New York Times, that sometimes, especially if it's political in this environment, it makes it difficult for me to go back and concentrate on my writing. So I try to make my reading that I do for pleasure to be either a novel or read something that is going to help improve my craft as a writer. And that's what serious writers do. So if you're not doing it, add it to it. If you are, you're being a good serious writer. Number 6. Serious writers are not afraid of criticism, whether it is from a critique group or from a publisher. So serious writers will look at criticism and they'll take it at face value. Yes, that could be very helpful. If several people say it, then it's probably something that is true, or it could just be something to think about for the future. So criticism of your work can be something extremely difficult for a writer to take, especially a young writer, a writer that doesn't have the experience of getting their work read. And you know, that's the difference between someone who is writing for fun, writing for themselves, but not really writing to be able to get it out there to be read by other people, because at some point somebody's going to read it and you want to make sure that it is the thing that you want it to be, the ultimate piece of writing. You want it to be well written. You want it to be the plot to work out. You want it to sound as if it is something that could be based in reality, or, you know, in a world building situation, in some alternate reality. And to do that, you have to be able to handle the fact that there's going to be some people who might not like what you have to say. They might not like your writing, or they might not like how you put something down in your story. And that is never anything that's going to hurt you. It won't hurt you to have criticism from a writer. And I can tell you, having criticism from a critique group, or from another writer, or for somebody who is reading as a beta reader of your work, is infinitely better than getting criticism from an agent or an editor or a publisher that reads your work and is like, yeah, it's not quite there yet. So definitely do not have that fear of having your work done, read. You know, for the longest time, I had a fear, and I am in a critique group, of submitting my work, because I'm like, oh, well, it's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. And at some point, you have to decide, well, even if it's not ready yet, it needs to get out there so that you can work to improve it. Because if you can't make it ready on your own, then you need help. So don't be afraid of getting criticism of your work. And finally, serious writers. I see Felicia Phillip said, very true. I'll have to look back and see exactly which part was very true, Felicia, but thank you. And I think it was probably part of the beginning board. I think that's whenever I saw it pop up. So, but, you know, it's all about putting your mind in that different mindset. So number 7 is that serious writers meet deadlines. And if they have to work harder to get that deadline met, they do it. So there's nothing that is going to prove that you're not serious about your work if you don't get to the deadline. Felicia says, yes, getting bored. Okay, good. So getting your deadlines met is going to prove that you are serious about your work. So, and that could be from turning something into a critique group. That can be a literary agent has asked to see pages of your work, getting that turned in a decent amount of time. The best thing to do is to ask them, what is the latest that you want it by, or, you know, when do you want this? So if you're meeting with a literary agent, talk to them about that. Getting a final draft into a publisher. You've got to get that in on time. if the publisher turns around and says, okay, well, and it's usually an editor that you're working with, but if the editor turns around and says, okay, I want you to look at the proofs and I need you to get it back by, you know, in 14 days or 20 days or 30 days or however much time that they get, serious writers know, hey, I got to get this done, got to get it in. I need to get as many eyes on this as I can to make sure I'm not missing anything. So, you know, serious writers, they get it done. And this could be self-imposed deadlines. You may have decided, I'm going to have my first draft finished by, let's see, this is March 10th. So maybe you say, I'm going to have my first draft done by May 1st. That gives you a month and 3/4 to get your first draft done. And depending on what your specific word count is going to be, you know, you may have to up your word count game. So, serious writers, what they do daily, they make sure that they are getting their work done, and they allow themselves to get bored, and they write whether they feel like it or not, and they're not afraid of criticism. So that is today's discussion. If any of you that are watching this on the replay have any comments or want to know more, feel free. I do check back every comment that I get. I try to reply to or like it, or especially if it's a question, I'll try to answer that question for you. So definitely type that on there if you're watching this on YouTube, because I do post this to YouTube usually within a day or two after I do it. So Felicia says, those deadlines are a challenge, but a natural high when it's accomplished. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I even get a natural high whenever I turn something in to my critique group. and it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, it's out in the world, it's done. So I 100% agree with that. So, but yes, definitely, if any of you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And like I said, if you're watching this on YouTube, there is a comment section. Feel free to post comments there, and I will answer them if you can. The next time I meet with you will be in 2 weeks. It's going to be March the 24th, and it'll be right here on the Rachel Pilcher Writing Workshops page. So if you have any questions, like I said, I'm here for you. I hope you enjoy your Sunday, and if you are on spring break, have a great time. It's supposed to get warmer eventually. I mean, we're in Texas, but seems like yesterday it was 80, today it's 50. Tomorrow, who knows? So enjoy your evening. Have a good night. Bye. Thank you, Felicia. I enjoyed having you here to comment. Thanks. Have a good evening.